Catfish victims who straight up lied to Nev. Catfish victims are sometimes not what they seem. As you may know, the usual plot is someone is typically lying on Catfish, though you rarely expect it to be the person writing into the show. Today's list focuses on catfish victims who straight up lied to Nev. Some people even kept persisting after getting caught in their lie. Number 5. Vince and Miranda. Vince claimed that Alyssa, a woman he'd romanced several years prior after meeting on Facebook, had ruined his relationship with his very recent ex, Liz. He explains that Alyssa would contact him incessantly after they had broken up and he was newly committed, and she was even sent some suggestive messages. Vince had contacted Catfish to find out if Alyssa was a real person, and his ex, Liz, was shocked to find out that the two had never met face to face. Despite Vince telling her that he even met her family, for a relationship that lasted over 1.5 years, I think Liz deserved to know the whole truth. On Alyssa's side of the story, she became the third voice in their relationship because she'd always text and reach out to Vince. What's crazier is the fact that Vince changed his phone number, but somehow Alyssa had access to it. Yeah, right. Nev and Max just wanted to get to the bottom of things, so they went digging. Turns out, Alyssa had lied to Vince about a lot of things, including the death of her mother due to cancer. She even falsely diagnosed herself with breast cancer and had a period where she was admitted in hospital and could only chat with Vince via a profile named Miranda, who was supposedly Alyssa's friend, keeping him updated on her well-being. The Catfish Busters did some digging on the Alyssa profile, and they were shocked about what they uncovered, but couldn't break the ice to Vince until the two had the chance to meet face to face. It turns out, the Miranda profile was the real Alyssa. She looked nothing like her photos, probably a younger version of what she'd posted online. Miranda wasn't remorseful about her actions. She even pointed out that Vince led her on and wasn't a saint as he claimed to be. She further exposes him for being a flirt. Nev and Max at this point are confused as to what just happened and even call him out for his lies. This guy had the audacity to complain about being harassed only for him to entertain this Alyssa he was calling a stalker. He was speechless the whole time as Miranda threatened to reveal their conversations as proof. Vince felt stupid because he turned out to be a liar, probably just looking for his few minutes of fame on the show. Shame on you, Vince. Number 4. Whitney and Bray. Whitney and Bray are the most famous fake catfish that were able to catfish the show host himself. Whitney from New York contacted the show concerning her long-distance romance with Bray, who was from California. The two met on a dating site and things kicked off from there. Apparently, they had fallen in love and talked regularly, but all signs were pointing to a classic catfish. This is because Bray was an exotic dancer and had only ever sent Whitney 2 pictures of herself and couldn't video chat with Whitney because she didn't have Wi-Fi. All these cat and mouse games went on for over 4 years, and since money was tight, Whitney had to put up with this since she couldn't afford to visit Bray herself. Wanting to unveil the truth, Whitney turned to Catfish in the hope she would find out Bray was who she said she was because Whitney hated liars and couldn't stress this point enough. However, things went on a downward spiral after Nev and Max discovered they might have been catfished themselves. They went through Whitney's Facebook and discovered rather suggestive conversations between her and Luscious Bee. The name was quite striking since Whitney had the same name tatted on her leg. At this point, they may have well just landed Whitney a shovel to dig her own hole, as to get to the bottom of these things. Angry at being duped for a free plane ticket and at worst, TV fame, the crew decided not to confront Whitney straight away and instead gauge her reaction as they went through the research. Whitney managed to keep her poker face on, even when she discovered her photos of Bray were of someone else. But she still had the balls to say how much she hated lying. As soon as Nev mentioned the Luscious Bee profile, Whitney started to look visibly uncomfortable. He then played his trump card by saying, "Messages on Facebook remain even if the two people unfriend each other." Eventually, Whitney admitted the whole thing was Bray's idea so they could get Catfish to foot the bill for them to meet. She wasn't comfortable with lying to the show, but wanted to find out if Bray was genuine about them moving in together. One honest thing for sure was that the two had genuine feelings for each other and weren't doing it for clout. Number 3. Shawnee and Jack. During this episode, the roles actually flipped between the two featured subjects. The love hopeful was the crook, and the person who was portrayed as the con man was actually innocent. And yes, Nev and Max were just as surprised when they learned the truth about this crazy and captivating case featuring a newly divorced couple. Shawnee, who turned out to actually be named Ebony, claimed to be in dire need when she sought out Nev and Max, but she was actually duping her ex-husband Brandon, who used the name Jack when communicating with the mysterious woman. At first, Shawnee's account to Nev and Max seemed legitimate. The mother of 3 told them that she had gotten a random phone call from a number she didn't recognize 5 months ago. Instead of picking up, she sent a text message reply, and the conversation quickly turned flirty. However, Shawnee and her suitor never actually spoke on the phone or met in person, even though they lived in the same town. To make matters even weirder, Shawnee didn't know Jack's last name. When asked if she would be okay if the person was a female, Shawnee claimed it wouldn't be a deal breaker and was open to the idea of being with a woman. When the guys got to work, they matched a phone number to a woman named Angel, and this immediately drummed up something in Max. Specifically, he believed that Shawnee knew Angel and they might be getting tricked. When asked, Shawnee refuted Max's theory and insisted she was being truthful. Turns out, she had a tremendous poker face. When Jack approached the mother of his children for a face-to-face meeting in a local park, he was completely shell-shocked and she immediately shrugged and put her face in her hands to signal she was guilty as charged. "So you were lying to us," Nev asked in disappointment, while Max interjected with, "You did catfish us." Yup, and more yup," she responded. Brandon, who was known as Jack, explained he had no idea he was chatting with his former partner and was royally confused to see Ebony. Ebony, meanwhile, confessed that she had bought a new phone to call Brandon. She also explained her motivation was to try to get her family back together. Conversations between the two had been going nowhere, and that is why Ebony took it to the extreme of calling the show. In the end, though, Ebony and Brandon reached common ground thanks to a heartfelt wrap-up conversation. They tearfully admitted they have always loved each other since they were little and both apologized for their actions. Number 2. Hundra and Emily. People will do the craziest things to get on television. In this case, Hundra pulled off the most insane scandal just to feature in this episode. With Max away, Nev teamed up with Machine Gun Kelly to tackle the case of Hundra, a Haitian girl who first met her online crush Emily through Facebook. The two had formed a strong bond, with Emily making Hundra feel like it was okay to love whomever she wanted since it was her first time trying out a relationship with the same sex. But soon, red flags began to appear. Emily went out of town suddenly. She asked Hundra to send money to a cousin to fix Emily's car. She only sent her 3 photos total. She deactivated her Facebook account and she texted Hundra from 5 different numbers. At this point, it's clear we're smelling a catfish. Or are we? After some digging, Nev and Machine Gun Kelly quickly discovered that one of the phone numbers was associated with someone named Geraldine. At this point, the untruths began to grow more complicated. When they tracked down Geraldine's real Facebook page, they discovered she didn't resemble the photos she'd sent to Hundra. Even worse, in some of the pics, she was snuggling up to another girl. And wait for it, that woman looked like Emily. Turns out, the woman named Emily was Geraldine's former girlfriend called Melanie. During an in-person meeting with Nev and his teammate, Melanie revealed that she had dated Geraldine and the relationship had ended badly after she got back with her ex. After Melanie set up a meeting, Nev, MGK, Hundra, and Melanie confronted Geraldine at her home. She admitted that she and Melanie were once engaged and even had Melanie tattooed on her neck, and that she catfished with Melanie's photos to spite her ex-fiancé. Geraldine even said she developed real feelings for Hundra. Hundra, on the other hand, stated that she was not attracted to Geraldine. As if this wasn't enough drama already going on, it turned out to be a circus after Geraldine decided to spill the beans to Nev. She confessed that she and Melanie didn't even know Hundra and only did it to help her get on the show. Why, if you may ask? Apparently, she wanted a platform to officially come out and reveal her true sexuality to the world. This was rather shameful and disgusting just to think about, but hey, anything for free fame, right? Number 1. Taylor and Christian. Taylor admitted to Nev that the LA dating scene just wasn't working for her, so when a guy who supposedly went to her high school slid into her DMs, she was captivated. His name was Christian and he claimed to know Taylor, which seemingly checked out since he knew which high school she'd graduated from and which school she transferred from. Taylor couldn't remember his face, but she just assumed they hadn't run in the same circles. Then, the typical catfish alarm sounded. The only form of social media he had was Facebook. He would never do video chat, and one day, his Facebook was suddenly hacked and deactivated. When Taylor was retelling this story, she wasn't as noticeably distressed as previous guests on the show. She was actually strangely chill. Too shiny, as Nev put it. Luckily, Nev sniffed out the lies before they even began to surface. They soon found that one of Christian's phone number was registered to Taylor's best friend, Jerica. Obviously, Nev confronted her about it, and she pretended to not understand the connection. Nev then asked her to text Jerica and looked over at her phone to find her number saved as the exact number they had retrieved from their search earlier that day. At this point, most liars backed down from the lie, but Taylor persisted, refusing to believe her best friend could possibly be involved. It was around that time that Nev received a text message that read, "You're getting played. Call me before you go anywhere." The person behind that number was Jade, who told them that the man they were looking for lived in Atlanta. With no other way to get answers, they hopped on a plane. The three met Jade at an address she gave them in Atlanta. She was joined by 2 others, Haley and Austin. Out of the blue, all 3 of them admitted to playing a joke on Taylor and apologized for taking it too far. Haley went to high school with Taylor in Ohio, which is how they got specific details about her life, but still, Nev didn't buy it. He knew Jerica, who wasn't present, had to be involved somehow because of her phone number. It turns out she never wanted to get on camera because she'd had enough and no longer wanted to go along with Taylor's plan. There was some awkwardness going on, and Nev was pretty furious about getting played. Taylor didn't bulge until finally the others threw her under the bus. They admitted that the whole story was made up by Taylor, who recruited them at the last minute to pose as Catfish. He didn't seem apologetic at all, but later said that it was all just a stupid idea. You think?